Good evening and welcome to the November 7th regular meeting of the Chandler City Council. Thank you for joining us. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Someone's coming in hot. Clerk, please take the roll.
Mayor Hartke,
Here.
Vice Mayor Harris,
Here.
Councilmember Encinas,
Here.
Councilmember Ellis,
Here.
Councilmember Stewart,
Here.
Councilmember Orlando,
Here.
Councilmember Poston.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, City Clerk. Our invocation tonight is brought forth by Reverend Steve Foss from First Baptist Church and our Pledge of Allegiance by our Vice Mayor Odie Harris.
It's good to see everyone tonight. Happy birthday, Mayor. Let us pray. Father, we thank you for our country, and we thank you for peace. We thank you for, Father, the laws that and the Constitution that we have to protect not only our peace, but our individual liberties. We thank you for life, for we are made in your image, and we thank you for the sacredness of it. We thank you for liberty, that we who were captive and held by sin, Lord, we thank you for the liberty, how you liberated us, emancipated us from the bonds of death. Thank you, Lord, for happiness and the pursuit of it. Lord, we thank you for finding our happiness in you. Lord, may this meeting that's convened tonight be a meeting that preserves the foundational elements of our Constitution and allows people to experience life, liberty, and happiness. Bless this city, Lord. Bless those who are making these decisions tonight. May they make wise decisions. For us in your holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Reverend. Thank you, Vice Mayor. Council, next on our agenda is our consent agenda. I do have one speaker card related to House Bill 2297, or on our agenda, item number 9. So before we proceed, I'd like to invite Mr. Lidman to come on up, state your name and address for the record, and when the light turns on, you have up to 3 minutes, sir.
Dwayne Lidman, 2301 West Palomino Drive, Chandler. I'm opposed to House Bill 2297 that requires our city to allow multifamily residential or adaptive reuse of office or mixed-use buildings without requiring a conditional use permit, a planned unit development, a rezoning application, or any other application that would require a public hearing. From my perspective, this requirement supersedes Chandler voters' approved master plan, our Planning and Zoning Commission's authority, our public outreach process, and our mayor and council's authority to approve or disapprove multifamily residential development based on the requirements set forth by HB 2297. Unfortunately, your mandated approval tonight of item 9 will further erode the city of Chandler's ability to self-control. Thank you for your consideration of my comments and allowing me to vent.
Thank you, Mr. Lidman.
Mayor.
Councilmember Orlando.
And Mr. Lidman, you were at the work session where we all vented, so thank you.
Yeah. Council, that's the only speaker
Well,
card
Mayor.
related to our consent agenda.
I just wanted to make sure that ask Kelly something before we move forward with in regards to his comments on item 9.
Proceed.
Yeah, just wanted to make sure, just for those that may not understand what item 9 is, but the mandate that we're required to vote on this, just kind of wanted you to bounce that over to you just to kind of give a highlight what we're doing, even though we may not necessarily agree, but we're doing it because of the law. I just wanted to bounce that over to you.
Thank you, Mayor, if I may. As a city, we are formed pursuant to the Arizona Revised Statutes, and we're subject to the laws created by our state legislature. That's what we're formed under. We have to act, our actions are authorized by the state legislature, and we are bound by the state legislature. Last session, or last legislative session, the legislature passed a bill that is, the purpose of which is to make more opportunities for affordable housing. And it does require us to amend our laws to allow multifamily coming in by right. It supersedes our normal public hearing process, posting and all that, under certain conditions relating to redevelopment of commercial centers that are no longer active and different things like that. And as an entity that is created by the legislature and subject to legislative preemption, we have no choice but to comply with that.
Okay, and if we don't comply, then what's our legal?
If we don't comply, we could be subject to litigation to force us to comply with this. And it is extremely likely a court in reviewing this would say we have to comply because of our legislation, the way we are set up, and being subject to state laws.
All right. Councilmember Stewart.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I can tell you that I agree with Mr. Lidman and the overstep here from the state. You know, as we've put together general plans and outlined the way our city will look for the future, it is unfortunate. But as we serve at the leisure of the state per the Constitution, does this particular item on the agenda, this is for us to fit within that, but also to amend our codes so that we can make sure that the applicants that come in fit the requirements that we require in our city too, though, right?
Mayor, if I may, Councilmember Stewart, that is correct. So where we were left with some authority, we have used that to make sure that we have buffers and we protect the property in the area to the best extent possible, other uses to the best extent possible.
Thank you.
So council, there's no other cards that have called in unless there is other preceding questions. A motion would be in order.
Mayor,
Councilmember Orlando makes a motion to,
I move to approve consent agenda items of the November 7, 2024 regular meeting, items 1 through 39.
and is there a second? Second by Councilmember Encinas.
Mayor?
I believe there's one action of recusal. Councilmember Poston.
Yes, I'll be recusing myself on item 28 for a conflict of interest.
Okay. Council, no other comments, questions, recusals, please vote.
Motion carries unanimously with Councilmember Poston declaring a conflict of interest on item 28.
All right, thank you. Council, next on our agenda is one action item event, resolution number 5846, amending the citywide fee schedule. And if Matt Dunbar would like to come up and give a stellar presentation.
Stellar presentation, Mayor. That's a high bar to reach, so we're gonna see if we can hit that today. Although I have had some recent training. Saturday I was out doing some garbage pickup, and they had a little training beforehand, which to me was irrelevant because I just picked it up as I went along. So we're going to talk about the fee schedule. This has been posted out on the city's website for the last couple of months. There is a comment option on the fee schedule when we post it, and we have received no comments. So as we go through that, just keep that in mind as well. Just want to give a brief overview of kind of the annual review that we do. Departments review their fees annually to verify if there are any updates that are needed. Some of those updates may be for administrative changes, such as for clarity or cleanup. There's some old language potentially that we have to clean up. We also look to ensure that cost recovery is still in line with where we anticipate it to be. If we charge for exclusive use of city spaces, we verify that that's happening and make alterations to those if needed. We make resident recommendation changes. So if we hear from residents, get feedback from them on changes that they would like to have at different areas where we do charge fees, we try to incorporate those recommendations. And then there's other fees that may encourage compliance or assist in an issue resolution. So some of those are highlighted today as we go through some of these changes that are recommended for kind of what area they fit under. The effective date for these changes would be at the beginning of the new calendar year, so January 1st, 2025. Characteristics of fees, just to keep in mind, fees. Did we go too far? Nope. Good up there. All right. So fees are assessed for use of facilities or services that benefit specific groups. Typically, these fees are insured to charge to those who are removing public space from availability to the public. So, for example, if I were to use a specific location, then the public does not have access to it. So there's a fee charged for that exclusive use. The fees reflect full or partial recovery of costs to provide those services. And we have to have authority to charge those fees in our city code. And then the fees that we do charge are set by resolution in the fee schedule. So just an overview of kind of the process we've taken. Departments have proposed their fee updates. There's been a lot of discussion internally and with the city manager's office. Additionally, we have another slide that kind of shares some of the information that's been provided publicly and with mayor and council. In August, September timeframe, we tabulated those fees, those recommended fees, did our analysis and summarized them. On September 6th, we posted those fees. Per state statute, we're required to post them at least 60 days prior to this meeting. And then after posting, we also published a notice of intent in the newspaper and social media postings as well to let the public know about these potential fee changes. Our action item is scheduled for tonight, which is a little over 60 days since the posting of the notice of intent. And in our review, we looked at fees across the city. These are the 5 departments that are recommending fee changes. We have community services, cultural development, development services, fire, and public works and utilities. Some of them are more in-depth fee changes. So we've had public discussions and public meetings on some of these items over the last many months. Community services, we've had a quality of life subcommittee meeting, Parks and Rec board discussions, and council work session in October of 2023. The fire department fees, there's a community safety subcommittee meeting in March of this year. And the development services fees, there's a council work session on coordination of road construction projects and proposed permit and fees just in May of 2024 as well. So we'll start with community services, and we have a high-level review of what their proposed fees are. There is a summary that's available online as well as in your packets. So where these reside is indicated with a page number, as well as there's a citywide fee schedule draft. So the page number that correlates with that as well. So if you want kind of the detail, that's where you'll find it. But first, this is some administrative type changes in aquatics. They would add a residency requirement for discounted punch passes. They currently do sell punch passes, but this would allow for a discount for residents to buy those multi-punch pool passes for a variety of kids, adults, and seniors as well. There's a change to the swim team fee from a per guard to a $5 per lane fee, and that correlates with the changes they've made from the guard requirements for swim teams. And then since we've gone away from utilizing the Red Cross Learn to Swim program, we're removing the specific Red Cross Learn to Swim fees and guard certification fees that are related to Red Cross. On the parks side of community services, these are more related to exclusive use. There's a 25% increase on pavilion rentals of all sizes due to rising staff and maintenance costs. The same amount of an increase for ball field reservations due to the rising costs as well. And a slight increase to the field preparation for regular and after hours and field staffing costs for those field preparations and field usage. For community service recreation facilities, again, this is more of an exclusive use fee, is a 15% increase to our multi-purpose room rental fees for small, medium, and large, and would change the setup fee for room reservations from $25 per hour to $50 per hour for residents, $34 per hour to $68 per hour for non-residents, and $38 to $75 an hour for commercial rentals. And that goes to incorporate 2 of our rec leads to help with those room reservations versus just the actual cost for 1. For the recreation fitness passes, this is a resident request. It was requested that we have a 6-month pass to allow some of our winter visitors to come in and utilize that facility for the months in which they're here. So this would add a 6-month fitness pass option for all age groups, teens, adult, active adult, and youth, and would add a 6-month fitness pass option for multiple family sizes. So a family pass is up to a certain amount, but also allows for additional add-on youth passes with those family passes. For community services tennis center, this is again exclusive use. This would change the per hour and a half charge in the morning, in an increase of 50 cents per person for residents and non-residents, and then change again 50 cents per person charge in the afternoon. It's a slightly higher rate because there are lights required to recoup some of those costs. For cultural development, they have one change that they're recommending, and this is for special events. Again, this is cost recovery. Would update the trash can rental fee from $17 to $20 for residents and $23 to $27 for non-residents. Again, that's to recover the actual costs of taking care of those waste cans after they've been used. For development services, transportation engineering, this one is a compliance related. This would add a new permit fee for traffic control and lane restriction permits of $315. It also adds a refundable deposit fee for authorized temporary traffic control permits. Depending on the project size, there's a percentage of that deposit that would be required. Of course, that would be refunded should they meet the terms of the permit which they applied for those street permit fees. For the fire department, in their fire inspections, this is also a compliance one. It would remove the current $40 reinspection fee and add a new reinspection fee of $100 for a second inspection if the business remains non-compliant. So at first inspection, if there are 3 items that need to be remediated and they come back for the second visit, second inspection, if those have all been taken care of, there's no charge for that second inspection. The business continues. If the business did not remediate those items, there is a charge for that second visit. On the third visit, it's $150 if they still haven't, if they're still non-compliant with making sure that they meet all of those fire requirements, and then $200 for any fourth or additional inspection if they remain non-compliant. So the goal is to help them get into compliance with our fire codes for safety purposes. From the public works and utility side, water distribution, again, this is a cost recovery effort. This would change our refundable hydrant meter deposit from $1,450 per device to $3,100 per device, and that reflects the actual cost of replacement for those meters. We haven't changed the hydrant meter deposit in many years, and those meter costs have gone up substantially over the last 4 or 5 years. With that, those are all of the fee recommendations for this round, this fiscal year. If there's any questions.
Council, any questions? Vice Mayor.
Yes, thank you so much for the presentation. Can you go back to, I want to specifically talk about the items of costs that our students will have to pay. If you can go back to that side.
On the community services side?
Yes, with as it pertains to like enjoying our aquatic center and things like that. I can't even see it. Well, it's not showing up on my screen. I guess my question is because, and I don't know if this may end up us having to break this up or if this is even going to matter based on what other council may feel about it. Why are we going up on, I mean, I understand what we're trying to do, but is this a need that we need to go up to charge our residents more? Why can't we just keep our residents the same and those that are outside of our community kind of coming in and visiting, charge them a certain fee, but keep the residents' fee the same?
Yeah, so through the mayor, vice mayor, specific to aquatics, this is actually going to be a reduction to our residents. So they have a discounted punch pass based on their residence here in Chandler. Currently, there's just a punch pass that you prepay for those. So this would allow for residents to have a discounted punch pass for aquatic visitations, which is a discount to them. The other charges are for like things like the pavilions and things like that. We don't find that a whole lot of youth utilize those. It's more families or businesses that utilize them. But there are costs associated with that. So we're trying to ensure we're recouping the costs of having staff go out there, clean them, remove the waste that is used because of the use of that facility specifically. Other than that, I think From a youth perspective, there only changes, other changes where the recreation passes, where we now have a 6-month pass that's available to them instead of a full 12-month pass. So that's a kind of an enhancement to those
Yeah, I
fees.
guess what I'm trying to determine is going up like the difference in what the rental for the pavilion and those particular areas that we're talking about going up on. What's the real difference? Like, are we talking tens of thousands of dollars? Are we talking about $1,000? How much are we talking about in terms of overall? Like 1 year go by. Uh, what's really what are we really trying to recuperate? What are we saying? $20,000 going out from the city, $5,000 from the city? I just kind of want to know.
Yeah, through the mayor, vice mayor, for those specific services, in total, we were about $820,000 for all of these fees. Community services specifically is a much smaller portion of that, and I would say like pavilion rentals and things was right around that $20,000 to $30,000 impact to the city budget. And I would say that that fee recommendation isn't necessarily just to generate revenues, but it's to keep that expenditure from a fee recovery perspective in line with current actual costs.
Okay, yeah, I just kind of. All right, thank you.
So let me ask two questions related to that. Is I know to even rent in Chandler, there is a I believe, and tell me if I'm wrong, but there is a question is, do you live in Chandler? And there is a fee base, so there's already a kind of reduced because we acknowledge that our citizens are part of the tax structure that built these. And so we acknowledge, so we have that built in. And also related to Vice Mayor's question, we're still not charging to teach kids how to swim, right? That's something that we have also retained to make sure that every kid learns how to swim. Am I right on both of those?
Yeah, Mayor, the first one, absolutely correct, in that we do have a discounted rate for residents versus non-residents for these rentals of facilities. On the second one, I'll have to ask John to answer that because I'm not as familiar with their existing fees. They're not asking to change that fee, but I'm
Okay.
not sure what their existing fee is.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, great question. The fees that we have for swim lessons, approximately $15, or if they're individual fees, there's a different spread. But we work to have free lessons, a number of them available, as well as those low costs. So that this action does not increase the costs that we've had. So we heavily subsidize the cost for swim lessons, but we do not have a proposed increase of those fees, anywhere from $15 for 2 weeks of lessons to up to private lessons as well.
Okay, thank you. That's what I thought is, I mean, if I could, and I have afforded to pay for my kids' swimming lessons, I did, but I just want to make sure that in our city that there is no, at least induced because of fees or costs, excuse for, for a child not learning to swim is well, it's on our watch anyway. So thank you. I saw on this side, Councilmember Orlando.
Thank you, Mayor. So the fees for lights for ball fields, that doesn't go up. I didn't see that in here. I saw without lights. For lights stay the same, right?
It was the tennis that had just for the lights for the tennis area for this.
That's it,
So correct. And
not the ball fields.
yep, Mayor, Councilmember Orlando, ball field lights are still heavily subsidized for those costs. We do have increased electricity over the years, but we've been able to maintain that and look to keep those as affordable as possible.
Good. All right. You heard that, Luann.
All right.
So follow up, the traffic control lane and restriction permits, this is something new. And I believe, and John around, yeah, John's here. So this one here, I think we need a little bit more of an explanation of what we did here, because I know council and mayor, I'm sorry, who's over the years, over the last year, but especially, I've been hearing a lot of complaints, concerns about the traffic control lanes, the cones being left up, no one's working there. And it was just driving, including me, crazy that I'm driving through this lane and there's no one there. So I'd like to talk a little bit about that because I think that one here is probably the most important one that affects citizens' daily lives.
Thank you. Through the mayor, council member Orlando, that's exactly correct. This is absolutely in response to some complaints that we've gotten, that you guys have heard as well, that we've gotten over, the past couple of years, and specifically recently. It's to encourage compliance and it's to assist in, resolving this issue as best we can without, going overboard. This should take care of, again, cost recovery of our time for review, for inspection, and then also to incentivize folks to get in there, do what they need to do so safely, and then hopefully get out of the roadway so that it can be back open to traveling public.
Well, that's great. And it must be working because I was telling the city manager the other day, I was a couple of streets I was driving by and they worked. And then the next day the cones were on the side of the road. And then a couple of days later, they were back out. So this is good. This
I
is
think the word's gotten out, council member, that this is coming.
good,
So hopefully people are starting to pay attention.
good, because I know it just frustrates me. And I know it does the residents as well. So thank you for bringing this one forward.
Councilmember Encinas.
Thank you, Mayor. This might be a question for John. Currently, I know we have a wide spectrum of different fees in here, but I'm just honing in on swim, recreation parks, fields. Where do we currently stand right now as far as compared to other cities with our pricing? Are we like the lowest, second lowest, median?
And everywhere in between.
Yes.
Mayor, Council Member Encinas. Specifically with, you had a bunch there.
More parks, recreation, pavilions.
So as we look, and we have that as part of the fee, the download of the comparisons as well, we're sort of all over the place, but we have trended to be in the middle when we compare to the Queen Creek and the Mesas and the Gilberts in the middle. And it's not often that it is apples to apples comparison.
Mhm.
So we strive when we put these together to be very much competitive and middle to lower when we have the opportunity. So we use that as part of the analysis, but it is not apples to apples comparison. So it's very difficult to say we're one way or another.
Yeah, a specific category. Okay, I just wanted an interpretation of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Stewart. Oh, Councilmember Poston.
In most of these cases, can you just tell me how close the cost to our residents is to the cost of the service? Are there any times or areas in which we would be charging them more, or are we just charging them what our cost is? In all cases or most cases?
Yeah, so through the mayor, council member, I think in most cases, we are not recovering full cost. I would say that it's rare to recover full cost, specifically on these fee changes. Maybe the ball field prep, we're pretty close to full cost, but the majority of them, they're still subsidized through taxpayer dollars.
Okay.
What's that? Oh, hydrant meter would be full cost, yes.
Okay. All right.
Full cost, but it's refundable if they return the hydrant meter
All right.
undamaged. So,
So we are still subsidizing some of these costs.
correct.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Stewart.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks for the work you guys have done and your team has done on these fees. And I know there's a lot that goes into that to try to get these all aligned. And there's a lot here. I think one of the challenges that I have is the sports and rec, right? The cultural or the community service fees increases, right? I think we're talking about the fees that Little League teams pay and the folks at the tennis center and things like that. And we already pay taxes for all those things. And so, in light of that, I move that we amend the motion to maintain our parks and recreation fees at the current levels for 2025 and ensure any items on the agenda that enhance affordability, which you have some of those on here, for those residents, that remains unchanged. Considering we have a $16 million surplus, it's essential that we support measures that keep our services accessible and affordable. This approach will allow us to continue to offer these valuable community services to the community without added financial burdens, reflecting our commitment to supporting our residents during challenging times and responsibly managing our budget.
Second.
So there is a motion and a second.
Mayor,
Okay.
can we have an understanding of what the
Yeah,
motion is here?
I don't quite,
I think the
to me, that
most,
is,
I can
this would
clarify.
delay it, but because I don't quite understand the details of what you're asking, but I don't mind bringing it to a vote and seeing if you got enough votes to pass.
Would you like me to clarify?
Yeah, please do.
Yes, please.
Holding the cultural services fees the way they are, unless there was something in here that enhances affordability, For example, the 6-month pass, and there was a couple other things that made it more affordable. So, so amending this motion to hold the fees the same for 2025, unless there was something in here that improved the affordability and keeping that in.
So just to clarify, and again, I just want to make sure before we vote on this.
Councilmember Orlando.
I
Yeah.
think yeah. So for instance, the recreation facility fees, the multipurpose room, or just the community services fees, the fitness pass, the tennis courts, trash collection, all of these fees?
No, all the community service fees, starting with the pools, the pavilions. So if you look down you're on the same thing I'm on.
Okay, so,
Recreation facilities, recreation fitness passes, community services, and that's it. I misspoke when I said cultural development.
okay, I was curious.
All community services.
All right.
Everything else is good.
So from the tennis, okay, so just a good clarification, Mayor, here. The community service aquatics, all the way down to the tennis courts. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Thank you.
Councilmember Ellis.
Thank you. I was not going to say anything because I thought this was already done. I was part of the committee that we sat down, we went through all this and we sent staff to work on it. They came back to us with information. We hashed this thing out. We gave them more instruction and they explained to us Councilmember Orlando was also part of that. We made sure that our residents were taken care of. And this is something we have to do right now because we're looking at how we can move forward with continue to provide those services and also trying to find a way that we can keep them affordable because of inflation. As we said constantly, the city also is seeing inflation. I am not saying that this motion is not appropriate at this time, Councilmember Stewart, but what I'm saying is that we've put a lot of work into this right now prior to this coming. This is not the first time we've seen this. It has been something we hash out with staff and continually done it in the past. So as far as I'm concerned right now, I believe this was presented to me in many different ways prior, and I was okay with it. And let's continue to go with the motion.
Vice Mayor.
Yeah, the reason why I agree with the motion that Councilmember Stewart brought forth is because I feel very uncomfortable. Again, I'm thinking about my seniors, I'm thinking about my veterans, I'm thinking about my youth, my students, I'm thinking about people who commonly use these facilities. We're talking overall $800,000, but when we specifically talked about the community service, this is directly impacting their quality of life. And that's what my colleague Stewart is trying to share with our colleagues here, is that these specific fees impact the quality of life of our residents who may or may not be able to afford the increases. We do have, he brought it to light, we do actually have money that is inside of our reservoir money. We can go and overall, based on what you even shared, this total amount is $800,000, but we're not. But my colleague is not specifically talking about the whole entire thing, which some things is just passing along. But these community service fees is quality of life. I feel very uncomfortable, even though they may not be paying the full price. I feel very uncomfortable increasing fees to our residents that's being subsidized. And I think that if we were to look at these community service fees, and I'm looking at the multi-purpose room, I'm looking at the ball fields, I'm looking at field preparation, I'm thinking about site supervisor, multi-purpose room, I mean like fitness passes, tennis courts, on down in aquatic center, our seniors may not be able to afford anything that impacts the quality of life. We need to really look at this. And I just kind of think that I'm okay with the bottom part. I'm just not okay with the top part of it. And I think that we can take another look at it. But I just think that we should consider our vote. The motion that's on the table right now is that the fees remain the motion is on the table right now, that the fees remain the same for the community service, everything that's connected to the community service, that it should remain the same. I'm looking at the memo inside of I'm looking at the memo that's inside of the attached, underneath the attached item inside the memo. And and I'm looking at all these items that's mentioned as community service, that we leave those fees the same, I'm okay with everything else, moving forward.
Mayor,
So, Matt, what kind of outreach have we done? I know that we've looked at what we needed to do to break even and have the voice of our community, but how have we also communicated these things beyond this room?
Yeah, Mayor and Council, I would say that the majority of the communication that I'm aware of has been through subcommittees, through Mayor and Council, work sessions with Mayor and Council, and then specifically Parks and Rec Board. For the others, I'm not aware of what other outreach those departments have done for those recommended changes, but those are the ones that I'm aware of.
Yeah, and with the subcommittee, were any of these concerns shared at that particular time? Or were there any of these brought up with the Parks and Rec or any of the other groups concerning price increases or these types of things to recover costs?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, in addition to and specifically around the aquatics, we worked with a number of the teams. We worked through the CYSA program as well with the leadership of the different groups to address these. And it's been a good 18 months now that these conversations have been had and none of the action has happened. So as far as the changes that we've put into place, there are nominal increases in order to accomplish the offset of the subsidy. We've seen significant increase in costs with staff. We've seen significant increase in costs with supplies. We've seen significant increase in usage in other areas. And we believe, we're very confident in what we've put forward, that these are nominal increases. Definitely increases. I certainly appreciate the support in recognizing the value that we provide. But these are, we've done extensive outreach to the user groups as well. I sense that these are acceptable for many folks. Where we have opportunities for swim, free swim, other areas, we have additional discounts for CYSA, 50% on top of these fees that are proposed here. So we've done a good job at communicating with our user groups. And I mean, there's always opportunity for more communication, but to take action, this is the staff recommendation that we brought forward.
Okay, I'll go back to Councilmember Ellis.
thank you. I was a member of the subcommittee and we made recommendation. We hashed this thing out over and over and over again. And as you heard, it's 18 months that he's walking away from me. I'm talking to him and I'm following him. So why am I sitting in a subcommittee to make recommendations that staff is working on for me to go on the dais, and it appears that it has never been talked about?
Yeah.
So if we had more questions about it, and if we needed to do something, I understand that at this point we have a motion on the table, and I'm more than happy to vote on that motion, but my work is valuable on that committee. I have sat on that committee for days. I take my time and I come and sit on it outside of council meetings over and over again. I would love for it to be appreciated.
And Councilmember, I don't think that is the question here. I think every council member that does not sit on that committee certainly has and should have the opportunity to voice, not just the three, but I think we could keep going. I'm going to call the question, and so that we'll vote on this. I just checked with the attorney and
Anyone
she said
can call the
anyone can.
question.
Yeah. So I think when I call the question, that kind of brings us to a vote. So I'm calling the question, which brings us to a vote. So
we're going to yes.
we're voting yes on Councilmember Stewart's suggested amendment. And if it passes, then it goes. If it does not, then that brings us back to the item on as it is written. So council, please vote on Councilmember Stewart's amendment here to basically hold, to freeze some of the prices that were related to recreation and places. No, wait a second. Yeah.
Motion fails 2-3, or 2-5, I'm sorry.
Okay. All right. Council, that brings us back to
Mayor.
what someone would like to make a motion.
Mayor, if I could
Councilmember.
actually make some comments? I
Please.
think they're still relevant to the, I'm sorry. I think they're still relevant, actually. I just wanted to say that I don't think any of us up here truly want to raise fees on our residents if we don't have to. And that I appreciate the hard work. I sat on that subcommittee as well and sat through quite a few meetings. And I know that city staff took out a lot of the fees that they were originally recommending that really would have made an impact on some of our residents. And really the fact that you took what we said very, very seriously. And when it was an item that is typically available for public use, like a pavilion in a park that normally I can go and sit with my family at, but that's been taken out of service for everybody else who's put their tax dollars into that and used for a private event or a business event, that's where we're charging that fee. And so the idea that we're really focusing on those private uses, the business uses, when the enjoyment of the facility or the item is being taken away from everybody else. I appreciate the work that went into that. When I was reading through this, it's very clear that that was taken very seriously when we said that. So I appreciate that. I do support this. I certainly like the fact, not like it, I don't want to say I'm going to like raising fees on anyone, but I do appreciate that what we're doing is raising our fees incrementally, where we don't end up in a situation where we have kicked this down the can down the road to another council, and that fee is now a huge increase as we try and make up things. These are small incremental fees. I appreciate that as well. So thank you, Mayor.
Well said.
Mayor.
Any additional comments or a motion would be in order, but Vice Mayor.
Yeah, again, I appreciate my colleagues who's here that's talking. As we talk about the fees, we're not talking about every single fee. We're talking about specific fees that relates to our residents. Our residents that is here, there should be no new fees. They already paying enough when they go to the gas station and when they pay their property taxes and when they do all these other different types of movements around our city. Some of those fees come back to the city of Chandler. And yes, it may be a subsidizing, but what I'm trying to help my colleagues understand is that I'm not, specifically when we're talking about our residents, we're specifically talking about their quality of life. When I talk to seniors and their money has not moved up, when I'm talking to other families that's in our community and their money has not went up, and we're talking about increasing fees, I'm not saying that I don't appreciate what staff has done in terms of trying to make sure fees are reasonable and that they are nominal. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that our residents who lives here, who has a quality of life expectation from where their tax dollars are going, we have a reasonable responsibility to adhere to make sure that our taxpayers are not paying additional dollars, even if it is nominal. And what I keep bringing back is the fact that we have money that is set aside, that this is not going to make a large impact to our large budget that we have here in the city of Chandler. I think if my colleagues would consider just thinking about the residents, and we can specifically focus in on the fees about the residents and saying no new fees, I would like to make a motion to ask my colleagues to not increase any new fees on residents as it pertains to this particular amendment. That is my motion.
All right. So there
You
is
could-
a motion on the floor.
Wait,
Is there a second?
Mayor, hold on. We cannot do a second motion, right? Correct.
If I may, Mayor, Councilmember Orlando, that is the same motion that was just voted
Right.
on in effect. So
Okay.
I would, yeah.
Well, the motion that the motion was, the first motion was no increases to any of the community service items. My motion is no new increases to residents that is specifically experiencing to having to pay for any of the services within the community service. So I'm asking, so the motion is specifically talking about the residents' fees, not the non-resident fees. I'm talking about the direct resident fees, that we don't increase the direct resident fees at all. His motion was not to increase any fees for any of the community service, whether they're resident or non-resident. Now I'm specifically saying for all the residents that there should be no new increase in fees for residents
Mayor,
only.
Mayor.
That's a different
Mayor,
motion.
point of order here.
So
Look,
let me
we
ask
have,
this,
Mayor,
let me ask,
we
you
have,
have not been recognized, please.
fair enough.
Let me ask the city attorney, is this enough of a
No.
nuance?
No, you can't, we can't make a
Please, sir.
second motion on an item,
What,
amendment.
if I may, Mayor, what the rules prevent is when you have a motion, you can only have one motion to amend. We have not had a motion to approve this item. You had a motion to keep fees level as to the community services, but there hasn't been an actual motion to approve the item or not approve the item. So these motions aren't amending anything. They're proposing limits on the fees that ultimately the council is going to have to vote on the overall resolution. With the proposals that have, well, the one proposal failed. So I do think that Vice Mayor can make his motion because it's not an amendment to a primary motion.
So there's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll
If not,
sec-
it dies for set luck.
I'll second.
Okay,
Can
there
I-
is a motion. There is a second on the floor. Keep us straight here.
Mayor,
Okay.
thank you.
Councilmember Stewart, then Councilmember Ellis.
Since I think it may make more sense, and I'd like to ask Vice Mayor Harris if he would amend his motion to table this until our next council meeting so that we can dive into this a little bit deeper and talk about some of these things.
Yes, I'm willing to, I would like to make a motion to amend my previous motion to table this amendment item to the next meeting.
And actually, if I could just be clear, Mayor, you're not really amending your motion. You're withdrawing your motion and then making a motion to table.
Okay, then I would like to withdraw my motion so that way I may table this so we can table this, this item, this action item.
Second.
And before, what's the timeliness of this particular item here? Obviously, it's fees, and this will come back and to redo this conversation, but there's.
So Mayor, the fee changes as proposed have been published for the 60-day requirement under state statute. As long as the fees don't change the amounts, we would still meet the statutory requirement for posting fee changes. Any fees that would remain the same, there's no requirement to post those. So the 60-day requirement has been met unless one of these fees were to be changed or altered. We would have to repost before we could have this discussion.
Okay, so that's a 60-day at least, right? So if this goes on and comes up at a next, we're still within credibility. If any fees are changed in the structure, those particular ones will have to go out for another 60 days. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so there's a motion and a second to table this.
Mayor.
That is also a council vote? I'll give you, yes, is that, I'm just seeking advice here.
Mayor, yes, that would require a vote.
Okay, council members.
Mayor, I'm gonna take us back and we can replay the tape. What I heard was I want to make an amendment to this motion. That's what I heard. So that's officially saying I want to make amendment to resolution 5846.
And if I may, Mayor, I would agree, but there was never a motion. And so it wasn't I think what the intent was, and the way I interpreted it, and I'll ask, is the motion that's before the council tonight, they wanted, the council member Stewart and Vice Mayor Harris wanted to change, was that motion, but with the fees increased.
right.
I realize he said amendment, but there wasn't a motion on the table to amend at that time.
Okay, we're semantics here, but reality is I heard very clearly, I want to make a motion to this resolution, which means we were voting on the amendment for this resolution. So by implication, you were trying to amend this by your amendment. You were trying to approve this with your amendment. So I'm not going to get wrapped up on this. I just wish if we have discussions on this without making this a huge area, we could have, as Councilmember Ellis said eloquently, we should have had a more more dialogue over the last 18 months. And quite frankly, some of these fees haven't increased for 10 years. Is that correct? So we're talking about a 10-year time frame, which no one's taken action on these things. Now I'll be prepared to vote on tabling this. And then if that fails, I'm coming back with a motion here.
Mayor.
So council, I'm going to suggest that since there's a motion on the table to table this, let's proceed with that and continue this conversation after we've had a chance off days to come find a better consensus. So with that, again, I'm going to call the question on let's vote on the table of this. So council, please vote. We'll be back talking about this again if this passes.
Motion to table passes 4-3.
Passes 4-3. Okay. Thank you, council. That brings us to our unscheduled public appearances. We have one, possibly two. I'd like to first call up Derek Logan. Please come up, state your name and address, if you will, for the record. And you have up to 3 minutes, sir.
Thank you. My name is Derek Logan, Lot 96, Pine Lake Estates. I'm Mayor Harkey and council members. I reside in Pine Lake Estates, which is right across the county island at the northwest corner of Ocotillo Road and Pine Lake Way. I've been president of Pine Lake Estates for about 20 years now, and I've really helped the city, seen the city grow, and really appreciate all that you have done for our community. I want to thank the planners, also past and present, for all that they've done for the community. I mean, we really have a great city here. As you probably are aware, Dominion has once again filed its application for LIHTC housing on the county island that I just mentioned. This type of temporary affordable housing has perpetuated the housing crises in other areas and intends to encroach on employment land to achieve its end in Chandler. We all know this is not the right place to build multifamily housing for so many reasons. Just this week, and very sadly, we had another airplane crash near the approach and departure end of Falcon Field. 4 people in the airplane died and 1 person on the ground. Fortunately, there wasn't a multifamily housing complex in the way. It could have been much, much worse. This is another example why I, as a licensed pilot for over 37 years, know it's not in the best interest of anyone to build a multifamily housing on this property, which is directly in the short final approach and departure of a runway. Also, just this week, many of us have received mail from out-of-state special interest groups concerning the LIHTC housing. The fact that there are so many such groups and organizations who are spending so much money on this shows that this is all about the money, and they will gain back much more than they have spent. This doesn't sound like they have Chandler's best interest in mind, as we know you all do. We support the city of Chandler and its affordable housing endeavors, but not this particular project and its devious development. You are aware that this proposal violates our water plan, air park area plan, and general plan that nearly 80% of residents approved, and that master plan has also been instrumental in landing major companies' investment for our community. We just want the land to be used per the plans that have been the reason for many of us to move here. And as we prepare to address some significant challenges at the county level with this project that you unanimously voted against previously, I wanted to ask if any of you would be willing to stand with us in person as you have in the past. Your presence alongside us would show a united front of residents, elected officials working together against special interest groups trying to bully their way into our city. The application will be heard before the County Planning and Zoning Commission on November 21st at 9:30 a.m. with an opportunity for public comments, and also on December 11th before the Board of Supervisors at 9:30 a.m. in person. Our community looks forward to standing alongside you, united in opposition at the county meetings. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. You hit that exactly at 3 minutes.
Perfect.
Also, speaker card from Luann Sedgwick. Please come up, state your name and address if you will, and you have up to 3 minutes.
Thank you. I'm Luann Sedgwick. I live at 753 East Gemini Place. I've been a resident in Chandler for 19 years. I appreciate everything that you have done to help support our our group that has been, as you well know, for the past 2 years, battling this plan to put in the high density housing. You passed the resolution last December, so it's been a year since that happened. And you continue to support this and realize that we need this area for economic growth and not for more housing. So I, along with Derek and the rest of our group, several of us were here on Monday and misunderstood that we couldn't speak on that day, but so some of them had to work and weren't able to show up tonight. But we would appreciate it if you were able to join us. I believe Councilman Encinas is going to try and see if he can fit that into his schedule. So we really appreciate that very much. But we just want you to know how much we appreciate you and supporting the citizens. I believe it was 80% of the citizens voted on this general plan, and we just want to help do what's right for the city and continue our economic growth. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Council, that's all we have for unscheduled public appearances. That moves us into current events, of which I'll start. Had the opportunity this last week to attend an event sponsored by Global Ties Arizona, in which they this was in partnership with our DEI team, and we hosted 22 emerging political leaders from 20 countries out at the Chandler Museum. This event provided a unique opportunity for local community members and Team Chandler to connect with these international leaders on civic engagement, community initiatives, and to learn about their international work. This was a unique opportunity for Chandler to be highlighted on the international stage. And because our good friend Barry Wong was there wearing a bow tie, I did the same. I want to thank our DEI team for their support of this event and members of Team Chandler who participated and represented this organization, including council members. Secondly, this last week, we also celebrated the retirement of Assistant Police Chief Dave Raymer. I also want to thank Dave Raymer for 25 years of service and wish him well on his next chapter of life. On number 3, we have an exciting event coming up with our film team. We are up for 3 Rocky Mountain Emmy Awards, and I understand that's the first ever. Our award-winning Kappa Digital Media Division has been nominated for 3 Rocky Mountain Emmy Awards and will be celebrating their achievements this weekend. The team has been nominated in 3 categories. In the category of commercial, for their human resources recruitment campaign for police and public works. In the category of public service announcement for the Water Conservation Go Blonde campaign. And in the category of graphic arts, one that we all participated in, Council, the State of the City Struthio video. So congratulations and best of luck to the team made up of Stacy Psycho, Courtney Randolph, Melina Melina, Julie Carpenter, and Edmundo Mendez. So we're excited and see how we do. And lastly, we have many holidays that have wrapped up or around the corner. I do want to wish Happy Diwali to those who have just finished their celebrations and a safe and blessed Thanksgiving for all. Also want to remind everyone of our annual tumbleweed tree lighting and parade that's coming up December 7th before our next council meeting. If you drive by, you'll notice the tumbleweeds are rising in downtown Chandler. This is one event you don't want to miss. Councilmember Encinas.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to share that last month, students from Chandler High School visited our City Hall. They got the opportunity to learn more about their government, tour some of our facilities here, and meet some of our great city leaders and staff. Students also heard inspiring Chandler stories and met special guest Radio Jules, a Chandler-grown resident here. She's a radio host at Forge Your Path on local and national radio. Opening up the City Hall for our youth is one of my favorite parts of this job, and I hope it reminds our next generation of the voice that they have here with their elected officials. I do want to give a special thanks to staff that helped coordinate this. I want to thank the teachers and advisors that agreed to bringing in these students to show them this experience. and as well as Elmer's, who helped us provide breakfast for them. So thank you. Also, thank you to the clerk's office, the attorney's office, and the city manager's office, who all participated in this, and our court magistrate as well. So thank you, guys.
Wow, a lot of speaking. Yeah.
Got it.
Councilmember Ellis.
Nothing tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
All right. Vice Mayor.
I'm actually shocked. But
You are
anyways,
shocked.
no, just a few announcements. Just want to remind everyone that MLK application awards are now open. The link is open. And we are excited about the nominations, which you can and the community can nominate someone that they feel embodies the work of MLK, the values and the ideals, and the work that they're doing to help promote and make Chandler a better place. So feel free to do that. This is a very important time that we get a chance to recognize community members and people who are doing it. And yes, I'm glad to have founded this particular award program in the city of Chandler, and I'm glad to see that it's still going forward. So there are 3 award categories. Applications can be submitted until 5 p.m. on Monday, December the 9th. So this is a great program that recognizes the importance of the people that's doing the work in our community. And if you know someone that may be a good fit, be sure to submit the nomination by the deadline. Lastly, Valley Metro Clean Air Campaign. Last week, I joined Valley Metro as the chair for the annual Clean Air Campaign celebration to recognize the incredible efforts of individuals and organizations from across the state who are dedicated to improving air quality. Most exciting, I was joined by our very own team member of Chandler, who was recognized for their contributions, Jason Crampton. He's been doing an amazing job. Let's give it up for Jason, everyone. Yes. Where he at? Where he at? Man, he's gonna have to watch this on rewind. Uh, but Jason Crampton is like our transportation person. He really does help us move forward. And as our transportation planning manager, he was awarded the commuter icon for the bicycling to work, and our Kappa team was a finalist in the creativity and marketing events category for their efforts in marketing the 16th annual Chandler Family Bike Ride. So again, the event was a great reminder of the impact each of us can have on our air quality in the valley. And I do believe that the mayor does a bike ride in the city of Chandler. I believe it's in
April.
So I did come out to the bike ride. Just for the record, just want everyone to know I did come out to that, and I enjoyed myself immensely. And there will be and no further comment from you, Mayor, about this. Okay. All right. Thank you.
And I did offer you a bicycle at that bike ride. Councilmember Stewart.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you for chairing that important role for us and representing Chandler, Vice Mayor. Today, I was able to attend the Kovac employee event over at Soho 63. And, you know, Kovac is one of those manufacturers in our community, and they install high quality metal paneling and glazing systems for commercial building enclosures. So they're actually had a hand in the building of City Hall here, and it's an award-winning building from years ago. So they were celebrating their successes over the past year, but that's one of those great things that we get to do in Chandler is celebrate the businesses that are here and the drivers of our community economy. So we have tremendous employers throughout Chandler, and they will continue to shape the future of our community. So it's always a special time when we can be there. But I also want to let you know about our upcoming Faith and Family Holiday Traditions in the Park. This is a new community event, and thanks to Mayor and Council for supporting that as one of our budget amendments last year. But this is Holiday Traditions in the Park. It's one of the cultural traditions that we have in the city, featuring live holiday music by local Chandler students, and we will provide information on how to give back to the community during that holiday season. We may have a giving tree or something like that there as well. So appreciate staff pulling that together. So if you're a local faith-based organization or a nonprofit, we're accepting applications through November 18th. So head to chandleraz.gov, holiday traditions, to learn more and apply. And then on December 14th, bring your loved ones at 1 o'clock, I think it is, and enjoy an afternoon of celebration with music and fun and family and faith. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Orlando.
Other than Mayor, everyone have a great Thanksgiving. Enjoy time with your family and friends. Be safe. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah. You didn't say other than mayor, did you? So
That's what it sounded like.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, Mayor,
I don't get to
Mayor,
have a
you
good
could have a
Thanksgiving.
great Thanksgiving. No, I thought I said, thank you, Mayor. I apologize.
Yeah, other than mayor, I got that on the record too.
Got that in the record. Other than,
Please roll back that
all right,
tape too.
Mayor, have a special happy birthday and have a great Thanksgiving. All right.
Yeah, it is a happy birthday, mayor.
There you go. Thank you. Councilmember Poston.
Thank you. Well, I have one for my fellow dog lovers out there. Woofstock is coming around again. We invite all dog lovers along with their dogs out to Tumbleweed Park that Saturday, November 16th. From 9 to 1. Mostly I just try and find events where I've brought my own dog so I can show her off a little bit, like my next kid. There are tons of activities out there. They've got a pet psychic. They have those pet psychic readings, a lure course, pet adoptions. My dog loved the Pup Cup from the Mayor's Youth Commission. They had a presence out there, and the meat bubbles in a little fenced area, which was disgusting for everybody else, but she was very happy. So we had a great time last year. We'll be out there again next year, inviting all families along with their dogs to come on out to Woofstock. It's a really neat Chandler event. So thanks, Mayor.
Very good. City Manager.
Nothing tonight, Mayor. Happy Thanksgiving to all of you.
Happy Thanksgiving. That concludes our meeting. Thank you, Council.